Mr. David Cameron.
Just as we need openness in the health service, so we need openness at the heart of government. After the Chancellor's extraordinary statement last night, the Prime Minister said this morning on GMTV, and I quote, "I would never instruct anybody to do anything other than support my Chancellor." Try and stand up with a straight face and tell us that's true.
Mr. Speaker, it's not only correct, but this is the nearest he's ever got to talking about the economy in the last few months.
If he wants to talk about the economy, we can talk. We can talk about.
Order. Members must calm down. The Leader of the Opposition must be heard. Mr. Dixon.
We can talk about him trebling the deficit, about wrecking the pension system, about ruining the tax system, and about bringing this country to its knees. But right now, 6 weeks before an election, with a record budget deficit, at the end of a long recession, I want to ask why the Prime Minister and the Chancellor are at war with each other. Now, this is what we are told. This is what we're told. Damien McBride, listen. Any closer and they'll start kissing. Damien McBride, Gordon Brown's spin doctor, was spreading poison against Darling. He told every journalist who had access to a pencil that Alistair's interview was a disaster. There was the most poisonous briefing against him. Last night, the Chancellor said that after he said what he said, number 10 Downing Street, and I quote, unleashed the forces of hell. Why does the Prime Minister think he said that?
I've already answered his question. I never instructed a briefing against the Chancellor. Now, when it comes to the question of the economy which he has raised, can he and his party now explain why they were for reducing the deficit, then against reducing the deficit, and are now for reducing the deficit again? None of his policies stand up, and that's why there is never any substance from the Leader of the Opposition.
It was this Prime Minister who put character at the heart of the election. It was this Prime Minister who says, judge us on his moral compass. Why is it the moral compass always points at someone else rather than him? This is a verbatim eyewitness account from one of the journalists. Listen to this. Brown's point man turned to the journalist and started laying in...
Order. If honourable and right honourable members do not stop shouting, I may have to ring some sort of helpline myself. Or worse still, suspend the sitting. It makes an extremely bad impression, this sort of noise and ranting, on the British public. I appeal to the House to have some regard for the way in which we are viewed by the electorate. The House will hear the Leader of the Opposition.
I gather things have got so bad in Downing Street that even the security guards need protection. Let's just keep it simple. Will the Prime Minister get to his feet and tell us he knew absolutely nothing about the briefing against his Chancellor in front of all these people who've worked with him for so long, after 27 ministerial resignations, after 3 attempts to get rid of him? Get to your feet and tell us you knew nothing about the briefing against the Chancellor.
He's not doing very well. He has asked me the same question 3 times, and I've answered it. Now, let us... Mr. Speaker, I would rather be defending my Chancellor than be in his position having to defend his shadow Chancellor. And the truth of the matter is that the Chancellor has been right on every issue of economic policy over the last 2 years, and the Shadow Chancellor and the Leader of the Opposition have been wrong on every issue in the last 2 years.
If the Chancellor was right, why was he trying to get rid of him? Right. The Prime Minister wants to talk about the economy. Let me give him one statistic and see if he will confirm it. Figures out today show that GDP per capita is lower today than when this government began. Will he confirm this is the first government in 40 years to leave this country poorer than when it began?
Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor and I can confirm that GDP is higher per head than it was in 1997. That is absolute. That is the question he asked, and that is the answer he'll get. Mr. Speaker, you know, the problem with the Leader of the Opposition is that not one time does he ask any question about the substance of policy. He gets it wrong every time. People are now taking a hard, long look at the Conservative. And, Mr. Speaker, they are now seeing through them.
Liz Blackman. I'm sure that members want to hear Liz Blackman.